A very good morning to everyone. Students, now we will take the 10th chapter of your honeysuckle book, The Banyan Tree. Okay, so by starting this chapter, we will give you an introduction about, as you see in the picture, there is a mongoose and a snake. And you have read in lesson 9 also that a mongoose can fight with and kill a snake. Okay, and this is justified by the picture given below. Okay, so let's start with the summarize with the short introduction. The fight of the cobra and the mongoose is a classic drama often seen in India, and the outcome is largely the same. The mongoose is not immune to the venomous bite but is faster and quicker in motion than the snake. The cobra assumes a posture of defense and attempts to reach the animal by a sweeping strike, but the quick-moving mongoose jumps out of reach and comes at the snake from another direction. Before the snake can get into striking position again, this constant movement tires and discourages the snake, and the mongoose is finally able to leap in close and bury its teeth in the snake's neck, usually severing the joints of its vertebrae. What does it mean? When there is a fight between cobra and a mongoose, and it is often seen in India, it is a classic drama and the people are enjoyed to see them. And you know that mongoose is very immune to the venomous bite, but he is also faster and quicker in motion in comparison to the snake. The cobra assumes a posture of defense and attempt to reach the animal by sweeping strike, but mongoose is also very smart. He is very quick. The quick moving mongoose jumps out of reach, and mongoose is very smart. He constantly tired him, constantly bothered the snake so many times. Sometimes he strikes something on its tail, sometimes he bothers a lot by different types of work. But at last, when the snake gets tired, so the mongoose is ready to bite. The mongoose is very ready to bite, and on the snake's neck or bury its teeth in the snake's neck or at the tail. So at last the snake become dead because he was very much discouraged by the mongoose activities, and that is why in the last he became dead, because mongoose was very smart and active. By discouraging him, by bothered him a lot, the snake came to an position and it becomes dead. Now let's start the chapter. Though the house, you must have seen a banyan tree. This is a story about what the author saw. As a young boy, when he was sitting in an old banyan tree in his grandfather's house, there is one banyan tree, and there is a author who is a young boy, and he was sitting in an old banyan tree in his grandfather's house. Okay, though the house and grounds belonged to my grandparents, the magnificent old banyan tree was mine, chiefly because grandfather at 65 could no longer climb it. Its spreading branches, which hung to the ground and took root again, forming a number of twisting passages, gave me endless pleasure. Okay, though the house and grounds belong to my grandparents, because that is the house of his grandparents, his grandfather, but there is also a magnificent, a wonderful old banyan tree was mine, chiefly because grandfather is at the age of 65, could no longer climb it. He is unable to climb on that banyan tree, and its spreading branches which hung to the ground and took root again. आपने देखा होगा जो banyan tree है उसकी जो branches हैं वो क्या होती हैं, लंबी हो जाती हैं और they touch the ground and they forming a number of loops or a twisting passages, and these type of passages or twisting loops gave him the endless pleasure. Among them there were squirrels and snails and butterflies. So many creatures were there on that banyan tree, because the tree was older than the house. Because the tree was very old, older than the house also, older than the grandfather, and even as old as the Dehradun itself. The name of the place is Dehradun. I could hide myself in its branches, behind thick green leaves, and spy on the world below. Spy means watch secretly. And even I could hide myself in its branches and spy on the world below. Or spy means चुपके से देखना, watch secretly on the world below, what is happening outside. My first friend was a small grey squirrel, arching his back and sniffing into the air. He seemed at first to resent my invasion of his privacy, but when he found that I did not arm myself with a catapult or air gun, he became friendly, and when I started bringing him pieces of cake and biscuit, he grew quite bored and was soon taking morsels from hand. Before long, he was delving into my pockets and helping himself to whatever he could find. He was a very young squirrel. What does it mean? His first friend was a small grey squirrel, arching his back and sniffing into the air. He seemed at first, resent means dislike, feel angry about. At first he thought, a squirrel thought that at first to resent my invasion of his privacy. He thought that कि मैं उसकी जो प्राइवेसी है उसमें जो है बीच में प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट करूंगा. बट व्हेन ही फाउंड, लेकिन जब उसे लगा डेट आई डिड नॉट आर्म माई सेल्फ विद एनी कैटापुल्ट और एयर गन, कि मेरे पास कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है एनी कैटापुल्ट और एयर गन, he became very friendly. And when I started bringing him pieces of cake, and when I gave him some food, pieces of cake and biscuits, he grew quite bored and was soon taking morsels. Morsels mean small pieces of food. Before long, he was delving into my pocket. Delving means going deep into my pocket and helping himself to whatever he could find. He was a very young squirrel, and his friends and relatives probably thought him foolish. And his friends and relatives probably thought him foolish. से लगता था they thought him foolish and headstrong for trusting a human. They thought that he could not trust a human. He thought that he is very foolish. In the spring, when the banyan tree was full of small red figs, birds of all kinds would flock into branches. The red-bottomed bulbul, cheerful and greedy, parrots, manna and crows squabbling with one another. During the fig season, the banyan tree was the noisiest place in the garden. Because the tree was very old, in the spring season, when the banyan tree was full of red figs, fig is a kind of fruit. When the figs appeared in the spring season, birds of all kind, whether the bulbul or the parrots or manna and crows, they are on that banyan tree, and the banyan tree was the noisiest place in the garden, because all kinds of birds are there and they are talking in their own language. Halfway up the tree, I had built a crude platform where I would spend the afternoons when it was not too hot. I could read there, propping myself up against the tree with a cushion from the living room. Treasure Island, Huckleberry Finn, and the story of Dr. Dolittle were some of the books that made up my banyan tree library. So, halfway up the tree, I had built a crude platform. And banyan tree is the most important tree for myself also, for me also, because I had built a crude platform, and this is my platform where I had spent the afternoons when it was not too hot, and I could read the books. I could read the books also over there, and I have taken the cushion from my living room, and that banyan tree had become a small library also. And some books, the names of the books are Treasure Island, Huckleberry Finn, and the story of Dr. Dolittle were some of the books that made up his banyan tree library, because he sat there and read some books in the afternoons. So that is why it is called a banyan tree library. When I did not feel like reading, I could look down through the leaves and the world below, and on one particular afternoon I had a grandstand view of that classic of the Indian wilds, a fight between a mongoose and a cobra. When I don't feel like reading, जब मेरा मन नहीं करता था रीडिंग करने का, तो I could look down through the leaves at the word below, तो मैं word को देखता था नीचे, and because I climbed on that tree, and when I look down and through the leaves and at the word below, and on one particular afternoon I had a grandstand view of the classic of the Indian wild. Grandstand view means a clear view from the best position. वहाँ से मुझे साफ साफ दिखता था. And what I saw a classic drama between, or a fight between, a mongoose and a cobra. Part 2, paragraph 7th. The warm breezes of approaching summer had sent everyone, including the gardener, into the house. I was feeling drowsy myself, wondering if I should go to the pond and have a swim with Ramu and the buffaloes, when I saw a huge black cobra gliding out a clump of cactus. At the same time, a mongoose emerged from the bushes and went straight for the cobra. The warm breezes, जो गर्म हवा थी, लू थी, of approaching summer had sent everyone, including the gardener and all the birds, into the house. I was feeling very drowsy, myself, wondering if I should go to the pond. मुझे pond पर जाना चाहिए, and have a swim with Ramu and the buffaloes, because it was very hot. When I saw a huge black cobra gliding out a clump of cactus. Gliding means moving smoothly. Clump means group of bushes or trees of cactus. At the same time, a mongoose emerged from the bushes and went straight for the cobra. Emerged means came out. Eighth is, in a clearing beneath the banyan tree in bright sunshine, they came face to face. And when they both came out, in a clearing beneath the banyan tree, in a bright sunshine, the sunshine is bright, they came face to face. The cobra knew only too well that the grey mongoose, 3 feet long, was a super fighter, clever and aggressive. The cobra knew only. What did the cobra know? Only too well that the grey mongoose, 3 feet long, was a super fighter. He was a super fighter, very intelligent fighter, wonderful fighter, and clever and aggressive also. Aggressive means बहुत गुस्से वाला. But the cobra too was But what about the cobra? He was too skillful and experienced fighter. He was very intelligent and experienced fighter also. He could move swiftly and strike with the speed of light. Okay, he could move swiftly means very fast and strike with the speed of light. Speed of light is, why is it called speed of light? Because the speed of light is very fast, बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, तेज होती है. And the sex behind his long sharp fangs were full of deadly poison. Sex means a part of an animal or plant shaped like a bag. And the sex behind his long sharp fangs. Fangs means long sharp teeth of a snake or a dog. Here we are talking about the snake. Were full of deadly poison. मार देने वाला जो poison होता है. It was to be a battle of champions. But there is a battle between two champions, between cobra and a snake. And next paragraph. Hissing defense, his forked tongue darting in and out, the cobra raised 3 of his 6 feet off the ground and spread his broad spectacled hood. The mongoose bushed his tail, the long hair on his spine stood up. Okay. Hissing defense defines me rebellion or resistance. His forked tongue, जो उसकी forked tongue थी. Darting means move quickly or suddenly and out. The cobra raised 3 of his 6 feet off. He raised 3 to 6 feet off the ground and spread his broad spectacled hood. The mongoose also bushed his tail. उसने भी अपनी tail को he also bushed his tail. The long hair on his spine stood up. And the long hair which was on the body of the mongoose has also stood up. Though the combatants were unaware of my presence in the tree, they were soon made aware of the arrival of the 2 other spectators. One was a manna and the other was a jungle crow. Combatants means participants in a fight. They were unaware of my presence on the tree, that I was on that tree and watched the fight between them. They were soon made aware of the arrival, but they were soon made the arrival of the 2 other spectators, those who watch a show or game. The 2 spectators were manna and a jungle crow. They had seen these preparations for battle and had settled on the cactus to watch the outcome. वो उनकी preparations को देख रहे थे and they want to settle on the cactus tree to watch the outcome. Outcome means result, that who will win the fight. Had they been content only to watch, all would have been well with both of them. Had they been content only to watch, all would have been well with both of them. 11th paragraph. The cobra stood on the defensive, swaying slowly from side to side, trying to mesmerize the mongoose into making a false move. But the mongoose knew the power of his opponent's glassy and unwinking eyes and refused to meet them. Instead, he fixed his gaze at a point just below the cobra's hood and opened the attack. Okay, the cobra stood on the defensive, swaying slowly from side to side. He want to defend, or he is in a defensive mood, trying to mesmerize the mongoose. Mesmerize means magically persuade. Mesmerize करना चाहता था into making a false move. गलत तरीके से अलग अलग उसने postures दे रहा था, अलग अलग positions ले रहा था. But the mongoose knew the power of his opponent. Opponent means जो अपोजिशन में है. ग्लासी अनविंकिंग आईज, उसके बारे में वो जानता था. एंड रिफ्यूज टू मीट दैम. रिफ्यूज मीन्स डिनाइड. Instead, he fixed his gaze at a point just below the cobra's hood. Gaze means continue watching. इसकी बजाय उसने क्या किया? And opened the attack, moving forward quickly until he was just within the cobra's reach. The mongoose made a pretended move to one side. Immediately the cobra struck. His great hood came down so swiftly that I thought nothing could save the mongoose. But the little fellow jumped neatly to one side and darted in as swiftly as the cobra, biting the snake on the back, and darted away again out of reach. There is a very interesting fight between them. Both are the experienced fighters. Moving forward quickly, बहुत जल्दी से वो आगे बढ़े. until he was just within the cobra's reach. कोबरा की पहुंच में थे. The mongoose made a pretended move to one side. He has made a pretended move to one side. Immediately the cobra struck. Okay, his great hood came down, and his great hood came down so swiftly that I thought means the boy thought nothing could save the mongoose. Now mongoose is going to dead, but the little fellow jumped neatly to one side and darted in as swiftly as the cobra, biting the snake on the back and darting away again out of reach. 13th is at the same moment that the cobra struck, the crow and the manna hurled themselves at him, only to collide heavily in mid-air, striking insults at each other. They returned to the cactus plant. A few drops of blood glistened on the cobra's back. At the same time the cobra struck, the crow and the manna also hurled themselves at him, only they want to collide heavily in the mid-air, and striking insults at each other, they returned to the cactus plant. But a few drops of blood glistened means shone on the cobra's back. The cobra struck and missed. Again the mongoose sprang aside, jumped in and bit. Again the birds dived at the snake, bumped into each other instead, and returned shrieking to the safety of the cactus. The birds, crow and the manna dived means deep into at the snake, bumped into each other instead, and returned shrieking to the safety of the cactus. The third round followed the same course as the first, but with one dramatic difference. What is the dramatic difference in the third round? The crow and the manna, still determined to take part in the proceedings, dived at the cobra, but this time they missed each other as well as their mark. They also wanted to take part in the proceedings, dived at the cobra, but this time they missed each other as well as their mark. The manna flew on and reached to its perch, but the crow, at the same time, the crow tried to pull up in the middle air and turned back. In the second that it took the bird to do this, the cobra whipped his head back and struck with great force. This snout means the nose and mouth of an animal, thudding against the crow's body, as you see in the picture. I saw the bird flung nearby 20 feet across the garden. Okay. It fluttered means flapping about for a while and lay still. एकदम still, सीधा लेट गया. The manna remained on the cactus plants, and when the snake and the mongoose returned to the fight, very wisely decided not to interfere again. उसने सोचा कि अब इनको इंटरफेयर करना नहीं ठीक है. The cobra was weakening and the mongoose walking fearlessly up to it. और जो mongoose था वो fearlessly means बिना किसी डर के walking fearlessly up to raised himself on its short legs, अपने short legs पर खड़ा था with a lightning snap at the big snake by the snout. The cobra writhed and lashed about in a frightening manner, and evil coiled itself about the mongoose. But to no avail, no avail with no success. इतने सारे efforts के बाद भी उसे कोई success नहीं मिली. The little fellow hung grimly on until the snake had ceased to struggle. He then smelt along his quivering length, gripped it round the hood and dragged it into the bushes. And he last dragged it into the bushes. The manna dropped cautiously to the ground, hopped about, peered into the bushes from a safe distance, and then with a shrill cry of congratulation flew away. The manna dropped cautiously to the ground. He dropped cautiously to the ground, hopped about, peered into the bushes from a safe distance, and then with a shrill cry of congratulations flew away. And then she flew away. This is a story by Ruskin Bond. I hope you have understood it. Okay, students, thank you.